All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome, freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take. Today, we are flying all the way out to the beautiful city of Los Angeles to talk about the Chargers and how I think they're going to do in 2025. Little fun fact before we start talking about the Chargers. This is the second time in show history that I have worn a shirt from my job. I'm going to move my mic here for just a moment. Check it out. It's a Dairy Queen shirt. If you guys don't know, I work at Dairy Queen. I am a certified Blizzard wizard. And this shirt is to celebrate Miracle Treat Day, which if you guys don't know, if you guys are seeing this on Thursday, well, it's happening today. And if you guys are seeing this at a later date, well, I'm sorry you missed out. But for all of Dairy Queens across America, to my knowledge at least, we all collaborate with all of our Children's Miracle Network hospitals, which is like all children's hospital, at least here in Tampa. And so whenever someone buys a Blizzard, all the proceeds from every Blizzard sale we make goes to all children's, and that's what this day is about. And so we got a new shirt for it, just kind of wearing it to see how it feels. Feels pretty comfortable. Could have thrown it in the wash with some fabric softener. Maybe it gets a little bit more comfortable after that. But I don't have laundry to do, so I'm not going to wash one shirt. I'm not that type of guy. So just kind of wear it for the next couple episodes. So for those of you that are going to watch the Chiefs and the Broncos episodes here in the next couple of days, well, you're going to see me wearing this shirt. And so I hope that the July 31st date, that's barely visible, I don't think anymore because of my mic being in the way. I don't know if anybody's going to be confused about that. But if you are, I apologize. But just going to wear it, see how comfortable it feels, kind of break it in a little bit. But all that being aside, all the rambling aside, let's talk about the Chargers, because I think the Chargers have the chance to be really, really elite this year. And that starts with, oh wait, I just realized we didn't talk about how this season preview series works. For those of you that do not know how the 2025 season preview series works, here on the Shoemake Take, for those of you that want to jump right into the discussion, go right ahead. The timestamps in the video description, knock yourself out. But for those of you that don't know, we're going to quickly recap 2024, briefly explain what happened, and then we'll get into the Chargers offseason. We'll talk about the coaching changes that they made. We'll talk about some of the other offseason news that was notable for this team. And then we'll look at free agency, who they brought in, who they lost. Then we'll talk about their draft class. And then after that, we'll talk into 2025. I'll talk about how I feel about the team going into the year. Do I think they're going to be good? Are they going to be bad, mid? Note some strengths and some weaknesses to keep an eye on. And then we'll analyze their schedule. We'll break it down game by game and just see how I think they match up against every one of their opponents. And then after that, I'll give you my official record prediction for the Chargers, and then we'll wrap it up with some storylines I'll be looking for in 2025. So now let's talk about the Chargers. Let's actually get into it for once and for real this time. So last year, contrary to what my record or what this graphic shows on screen right now, the Chargers won 11-6 in 2024, and we finally got to see what this roster could do with better coaching, and they did not disappoint at all. For years under Brandon Staley, this team was good, ready to compete for the playoffs. Their team was good enough for it. It's just the coaching was the weak link, which is pretty interesting. It's insane, really. And then here comes Jim Harbaugh from Michigan coming off of a national title, and boom, year one makes the playoffs, and the Chargers look like a completely different football team. And that's impressive. That's really impressive, and it shows that they really needed better coaching, and they got better coaching, and we finally got to see what that looks like, and it was so cool. It was so cool to see the Chargers actually be good this year because they had so much potential, and now it was somewhat realized, which is great. And now they have a solid foundation to build off of, which is why I think they could be really elite in 2025. So let's get into their offseason, into 2025 here. So coaching changes. They brought in and promoted Adam Fuller to be their new safeties coach. The guy before him, Chris O'Leary, left to be the defensive coordinator of Western Michigan. So two guys stepping into bigger roles. Congrats to them, and I wish them the best in their new roles. And then they also brought in Dylan Roney, or they may have promoted him, I can't remember, to be their defensive ends coach. Another promotion, or bring in, I can't remember, man. Goodness me. But for him, wish him the best. Hope he steps into his new role and acclimates well. And then the biggest offseason news actually happened a couple days ago at the time of me recording this video. Rashawn Slater, their star tackle, signed a 4-year, $114 million extension with $92 million guaranteed. That's an average of $28.5 million per year. Fantastic. Makes him the highest paid tackle in the NFL. Rashawn Slater is fantastic. I love him. He's a great player. He also recently got divorced, too, if you guys didn't know that. So obviously, that's a very tough time for anybody. And so to go through that, get that done, and then get rewarded with a big contract extension, fantastic. I mean, I can't be happier for Rashawn Slater. Hope he's doing well in his life, and having generational wealth with this contract does a lot to help that. So here's to hoping that he continues playing well. Congratulations to Rashawn Slater. Fantastic extension for the Chargers. They really needed to do that. But continuing on the offensive line, the other big notable offseason thing for me, at least, was that Bradley Bozeman, their center, and then Zion Johnson, their left guard, are swapping positions. They're going back and forth in camp. They are trying snaps at left guard. They're trying snaps at center. Bozeman, he has experience at left guard. He's done it before. It's not completely foreign to him. But for Zion Johnson, he's never played center at any point in his life, whether it's high school, college, pro, never. So he's in completely new territory. But apparently both guys have embraced it. They're both doing pretty well. They're competing. They're trying to see who's the best fit. And so far, there's been healthy and good competition. So here's to hoping that they find the best fit for those two guys and they step up this year and play a lot better, because their interior offensive line really was an issue for them in 2024 at times. So here's to hoping that they get the best fit and the offensive line is better for it. So going into their free agency, they brought in a few players. On the offensive side of the ball, it was highlighted by Najee Harris and Mekhi Becton. Starting with Najee Harris, obviously he was with the Steelers, former first-round pick out of Alabama, has not really been the player that people thought he would be. He's still been pretty good, very sneaky, consistent, but got injured last year, really wasn't himself like normal. Ended up going to the Chargers now, where he's with a more physical, run-heavy team than what he normally was used to being in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was still trying to be more of a balanced. I mean, they still obviously had a run game element involved, and obviously last year, Arthur Smith, the run game was very prevalent for them. But in an offense that is more geared to run the football and is more centered around it than I would say Pittsburgh was compared, I think Najee Harris is going into a good spot. I think that he's going to play well. I think he's going to bounce back a little bit. And with Amari and Hampton, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, I think that duo could be really good. I think it'd be really fun to watch, and we'll have to see how they go in 2025. But I think this is a good signing for the Chargers. I like it. It's a one-year deal, so not super expensive, very cheap. I can respect it. I like it. I'm excited to see what he does this year. And Mekhi Becton, obviously coming off of a Super Bowl victory with the Philadelphia Eagles, and played right guard. I think it was the first time playing right guard in his career, and had the best year of his career. So got great coaching, had great guys around him on that line to help elevate him, and honestly, he didn't play that bad. And so he goes to the Chargers, signs a 3-year deal, and for him, I'm glad that his career is finally going on a right trajectory. It has not been good when he was with the Jets. It's been very disappointing. And so for them to go to the Eagles, play great, and now he gets a good contract with the Chargers. Hopefully he can anchor down that right guard spot for 3 years and make it more stable. I hope so. I'm rooting for him, and it's good to see his career finally get back on track, because he was such a really talented player coming out of college. I thought that he would be really good, and so to see him bounce back and perform well, very happy for him. And then so on the defensive side, it was really Dante Jackson, the big addition on that side for them. A couple other guys here, Deshaun Hand, Naquan Jones, Delshon Phillips. These guys are going to compete. Deshaun Hand's probably going to be a starter this year for them, because they lost a lot of their interior defensive linemen. But having Deshaun Hand is important. Both of these guys, or a lot of these guys, have a lot of experience. But Dante Jackson was with the Pittsburgh Steelers with Najee Harris. He was a starter for them for a while, and he was solid. He was also another sneaky good player. He had some issues in coverage at points last year, especially later half of the year. But Dante Jackson's not bad. He's pretty good, and considering they lost Christian Fulton, having another veteran in there to help keep that position stable while they develop Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart is, I can't complain. I can't complain at all. So I think that Dante Jackson is a nice addition. Then you look at their losses, though, and this is where things get a little bit more complicated, because on the offensive side, they lost. The two biggest losses for me were J.K. Dobbins and Josh Palmer. J.K. Dobbins had a breakout year. He was fantastic. Really wish they would have brought him back. Stinks that they didn't do that. But given what they did this offseason, I would say sure. Like, the running back room is upgraded over what it was last year, because the guy behind him, Gus Edwards, or was it Gus Edwards last year behind him? No. Yes, he was. Gus Edwards was, and he was disappointing. But now he is with the Broncos, J.K. Dobbins, so it'll be interesting to see what he does in a new opportunity. But that sucks, because he played really well, especially early in the year. He exploded onto the scene And whenever J.K. Dobbins is healthy, he's good. It's just he needs to stay healthy. That's been his issue throughout his NFL career. So to see him last year come back and play really well was really encouraging. It was exciting, but I really wish they would have brought him back and kept some of that continuity. But I can't complain too much. And then Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer was another player drafted by the Chargers a while back and been there for a while. Versatile, can play slot, can play outside. Did some really good things for the Chargers. Very reliable. Now he goes to Buffalo. And this one, it stinks. The wide receiver core got a little bit worse because of him leaving, but they got younger too. So in a way, like there's a little bit more upside, you could say, I guess. But losing him does stink. He was there for a while. Like I said, he was reliable. So it's unfortunate, but that's really the bulk of what they lost. And if you see a bunch of asterisks on Mike Williams, I don't know if I took those out in the graphic or not, but they brought back Mike Williams, and then he recently retired like a week ago. So that's unfortunate, but congratulations to Mike Williams for an impressive NFL career. Did a lot of good things for the Chargers in his time there. And so congrats to him. I hope he made the right decision for himself. I believe in him. I hope that he continues to have a great life after football. So other than that, on the defensive side, again, this is where things get tough. Things are complicated. Now it's tough because they lost multiple starters. Joey Bosa, who was there forever, finally let go. Unfortunate. Joey Bosa has been good, just can't stay healthy. And it's an end of an era. He was a really good pass rusher at the beginning of his career, but like I said, has not been able to stay healthy. And he said that recently in an interview that his time in LA had become stagnant, and that's not really a shot at the Chargers. I can understand. I mean, if you're constantly if you're on the field and you're playing well, but you can't be on the field all the time, I mean, it's hard to feel like you're actually progressing in your career. It feels like hard to feel like you're actually moving forward, you know? So I can understand why he feels that way. So going to Buffalo, getting a new, fresh opportunity, and here's to hoping that he plays well in Buffalo. But for the Chargers, it's a tough loss because, I mean, he's not just was a really good pass rusher. He was a good locker room guy, too. I mean, obviously, he was with the Chargers. He was drafted by the Chargers a long time ago. So losing that type of guy does hurt you. It does hurt because of what he brought to the locker room. But they're going to move on. I still think their edge rusher group is still going to be pretty good anyways. But the interior defensive line is where things get really, really tough because they lost Morgan Fox and Poona Ford. Those two guys were their starters last year. And they got to bring in new guys. I don't like that they both had to be let go, but sometimes that's just how it has to be. Their defensive line was pretty good last year. So to see them lose, both of them leave, is unfortunate. But I think they did the best they could trying to fill in the holes, but this is a position that they're going to have to really nail in the draft over these next couple of years. And with a couple of picks they got in this year's draft, they set a really good foundation, I think, to begin building that and going in that right direction. And then they also lost linebacker Nick Niemann, who was a starter. He ended up going to Houston, I think it was. Yeah, he went to Houston to be a backup over there, provided a lot of depth. I really like the linebacker group in Houston. I think it's going to be fantastic this year. And then Christian Fulton, 1-year deal, was a starter for them for 1 year, left to go to Kansas City. He was okay, but he ended up getting hurt, dealt with his own injuries, as Christian Fulton does. If you guys don't know, I'm a big Titans fan, so I'm very, very, very well acclimated with Christian Fulton and his experience on the field. It's up and down. It's very much up and down, and more than recently in Tennessee, it was very, very down. But that being said, they lost a lot of starters on their defense. So is their defense going to be as good? I don't know. I don't think so, but I still think their defense should be pretty good. I don't expect it to be bad, but I don't know if it's going to be as strong as it was last year. But we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. Let's talk about their draft, because I think their draft was pretty solid. In the first round, they drafted running back out of North Carolina, Omari Hampton. Very powerful, very strong runner. Very, very much fits what Jim Harbaugh's about, what he likes to do on offense. And they need a better running back. I mean, not that J.K. Dobbins was bad, but getting Omari Hampton, a guy who can fill in that role, and he's younger, obviously cheaper. That's how the NFL goes. And so you're hoping Omari Hampton can step in and be really good. A lot of people thought that he was objective. Some people, I think I heard some people say that he was better than Ashton Genty. I don't believe that for 1 second, but I heard people talking about it, and he was objectively the second best running back in this draft class. And if it wasn't for Ashton Genty being a generational talent, according to a lot of people, Omari Hampton would have easily gone higher in the first round, in my opinion. But he fell to the Chargers. Good pickup for them. Obviously fits their scheme and philosophy. So him and Najee Harris should be a fun duo to watch in 2025. I'll be very intrigued, and shows a lot of potential. Number 2, the second round pick, wide receiver Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. This one's tough. This one is not like tough in a bad way, but there's a lot of talent there. He's a physical X receiver. The Chargers need that. They do not have that. Quentin Johnston was supposed to be that, but he's proven that he's not that. He's more of a Z, using his speed more effectively than his size. So Trey Harris fills a void that they needed, which is good. But the only thing is, Ole Miss is just so hard to evaluate talent. Similar to like the University of Tennessee, those two organizations, those two programs, I guess, do college offenses to a core. Like, they do not use a lot of pro-style elements in their offense. And so when it comes to certain issues like Trey Harris and his lack of ability to run a complete route tree and other things around that type of department, it's tough to gauge how good is he really going to be, because he wasn't in an offense that was not pro style. So you're kind of wondering how well all of his physical talent is going to translate to the NFL. It's hard. It's hard to gauge that type of stuff with a school like Ole Miss and an offense like Ole Miss that is very much a college offense that doesn't use a lot of pro elements, like I said. So it'll be interesting, but he does have a lot of talent. I like him. And as a Titans fan, I kind of wanted the Titans to pick Trey Harris. They needed an X receiver, and so this could have been their guy. But I'm happy with Alec Manor personally right now. But Trey Harris, talented. They needed a physical X receiver. They needed a receiver anyways, and so getting a guy like that. Sorry, throat is dry. I might have to take a break for a second, and get some water. But it's a good pick. I like it. It's hard to evaluate Ole Miss players in general just because of what the offense that they're in. But we'll have to see. In the third round, they drafted Jamari Caldwell out of Oregon, Derek Harmon's running mate. And this one could be a replacement for Poona Ford later on. And he's got some upside. He's played some zero technique, played some 3 technique, solid pass rusher. So if he can develop there, that'll help shore up that issue on the defensive line. Because like I said, the defensive line lost a lot of players this year. And so they need to hit in the draft these next couple of years to really help build that back up. And I think that Jamari Caldwell, with a little bit of time, could become that. I like his talent. I like the upside. And then with the next pick in the 4th round, Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina. He was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year last year. Very good speed off the edge. Very good at moving people. Really good pass rushing ability. Showed a lot of good signs. And so to get him in the 4th round, really good value. Could be one of the best picks in this draft class for them. If it's not Omarion Hampton, Kyle Kennard would be my pick to be the best player in this draft class. And like I said, they got good value. And this was a very stacked draft class overall for edge rushers. So to get a guy like this in the 4th, can really respect it. I really appreciate it, especially with what he showed on tape in 2024. And then you get into Keandre Lambert-Smith in the 5th round. Can't remember what college he came out of, but he is a Z receiver. He's got a lot of speed. He's going to compete with Quentin Johnston for that spot a little bit, but for my money, I think he's just going to be more of a special teams ace. Maybe take some snaps at returner so we could see him there. I like his speed, so it could be a good fit there, but we'll have to see. He's going to be depth for now, but maybe he can push Quentin Johnston later down the line. We'll have to see. That's a little bit more of a stretch, though, in my opinion. And then you get to Oronde Gaston, the 2nd in the 5th round. This one I'm kind of excited about because the Chargers don't have a receiving tight end. He was a former wide receiver that turned tight end, so obviously the background makes sense. But Will Dissly is more of a blocking tight end with receiving upside, and then Tyler Conklin is he's kind of more of a do-it-all. He can catch, he can block, but he's not a dynamic receiver like Oronde Gaston can be. And so having that type of guy in your tight end room kind of rounds everything out, makes everything really full circle. I like the versatility that they have in their room now, adding Gaston. And so I'm hoping he can develop and maybe take a bigger role later in his career. So I like the pick, like what they need, fills a need, I guess. Was it really a need? I wouldn't say tight end was a big need, but adding a guy like Gaston, who's a more of a better pure receiver, helps balance out the tight end room. So for depth purposes, very, very much like the pick. And then you get Branson Taylor. They finally addressed interior offensive line. A lot of people thought that they'd go with this pick earlier, or this position earlier in the draft. So 6th round, better late than never. But Branson Taylor's a guy that has a lot of physical upside, very strong, powerful hands coming out of college. And he played left tackle, but he's going to switch into guard. And so year 1, probably going to be a backup. And then year 2, year 3, probably going to step along and be a starter. And that could be really good for them. The Chargers really need to build through their trenches. Their trenches were not the best parts of their team last year. And so, well, I take that back. The defensive line was really good last year. The interior offensive line was not. But given what they lost on defense and given what they don't have in high-end talent on the interior offensive line, adding players in the trenches in these two spots really need to do that. And so I like the value that they got with Branson Taylor, but we're going to have to see what happens. I wish they would have went with it sooner, but we'll just have to see. I do like the pick, though. And then R.J. Mickens and then Trikwezi Bridges, those two DBs kind of going to be competing for special teams, probably going to play special teams in year one. They have some upside to develop, but at the safety spot, they have a lot of depth already, so R.J. Mickens isn't going to see the field all that much, but Trikwezi Bridges, maybe he could, maybe if a couple guys get hurt, but we'll have to see about that. I think he's going to be more of a special teams guy in year one, but obviously when you're picking on day 3, you're picking guys that could probably play on special teams for you and that are dart throws that could have upside to develop into a full-time starter or at least a better role player than going on beyond special teams. So overall, I'd say their draft is solid. They attacked issues of need pretty well, in my opinion. Could it have been better? Sure. But I can't complain about this draft at all. I thought it was a pretty solid bunch overall. And so now we look at if the Chargers, are they an improved football team? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they're not an improved football team. And so it's going to be interesting when I try to make the argument that I think they have the chance to be elite in 2025. It's going to be interesting how I'm going to make this argument because it sounds like I'm not really hyping up the Chargers at all. It seems like I'm going to have them taking a step back. And in their record, I actually did have them taking a step back, although I'll explain why in a moment when we get to it after the schedule analysis, right? Yeah, after the schedule analysis. But here's how I feel about the Chargers. The Chargers are going to be good this year. They're going to build off a strong 2024 season. And this is why I think they have the chance to be elite in 2025, is because of that continuity. The Chargers have not had a stable foundation forever. Now they have it with Jim Harbaugh, obviously with Justin Herbert and all what they have on their offense and defensive side. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the Chargers to see what they do this year. And even though their roster isn't as good, this is a situation where I think the continuity on their roster and the foundation that they set for themselves last year could propel them to be better. I think they're going to be roughly the same as they were last year record-wise. It's not going to be, I don't think they're going to win 13 games, but I could see them winning 12. I could very much see them winning 12 games, 11 games again. So it's very much possible. I'm up for it. I could believe in that. I could buy into that. We'll just have to see. The Chargers, I'll say this, it's hard if it's not the big 3, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills, the rest of the teams in the AFC that are good, that are supposed to make the playoffs, it is kind of hard to predict where they're going to go because outside of the big 3, it's a constant rotation of a bunch of other teams every year. So there's not a lot of continuity there. So it is kind of hard to gauge if the Chargers are going to be 10-7. Are they going to go 12-5? Those are two big differences despite being only 2 wins apart. So it's hard. It's hard to gauge it, but I do think the Chargers are going to be good this year. Regardless of what their record is, I think they're going to be a good football team this year. And a little bit of a minor spoiler, I do have them making the playoffs again. So that'll be really good for them. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So let's look at their strengths. Number 1, obviously, quarterback, Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He does not need no introduction nor explanation as to why he is a strength on this football team. Offensive line is sitting here, and given a little bit more thought, I think I might just make that tackle because Rashawn Slater, obviously one of the best in the NFL. Joe Alt had a really good rookie year. Oh my goodness. Was he a really good breath of fresh air over there? I expect these two guys to play great for a long time. But this interior, the reason why I had offensive line as a strength, because I had faith that this interior offensive line would improve. And I still think they can. It's obviously not in the realm of, it's not impossible. But given how bad they were last year, I think it is hard to expect them to be really good this year. I think they could step up and maybe be league average if all goes well. But are they going to be elite? No, they're not going to be in the same ballpark as Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, in my opinion. So maybe offensive line is going to change to offensive tackle more specifically. But overall, I think this offensive line should still at least be pretty good as a unit. I don't think it's going to be a big issue for them compared to what it was last year on the interior. And then edge rusher is another strength that I really like. They have really good depth. Their starters are really good. Obviously, you have Khalil Mack, guys like Kyle Kennard as a rookie, Bud Dupree, the other starting edge rusher. I can't remember his name. Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. But I like their edge rusher group. Even without Nick Bosa, without Joey Bosa, they still have really good players. I like the rotation that they're going to have. They're going to keep guys fresh. It's always going to be tough. It's going to be competitive. So I like it. I really like it. And linebacker is another one that I like. Dan Henley, I'm excited to watch. He had a breakout year last year. Was really fun for them. And so here's still hoping that he continues to develop and play well. And then safety is another one, which is full of depth. Alohi Gilman and Derwin James are your starters. Elijah Molden is a backup as a third safety. He's really, really good. And so I really like their depth. A couple other guys in there as well that are developmental, like RJ Mickens. So I like what they brought. I like what they have. I think it's going to be a strong part of this football team, and that's going to help them a lot because the only two weaknesses I would say on their team, if you want to include interior offensive line, I would not blame you at all. But to me, I think the two biggest ones, there's only one here on the graphic, but I'm going to add another one, and it's defensive line, and the one I'm adding is corner. Defensive line, obviously, because they lost so many starters. Defensive tackles specifically is probably going to be an issue for them because the guys they brought in are not great. I mean, these are like average to low-end starters, so you're not getting a lot of star power there. Maybe their third-round pick does well, but I think it's going to take a step back this year. I don't know if it's going to be as good. And then corner is one that I am a little worried about because Dante Jackson, he's good, just not great. And then Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart showed some really good, impressive flashes last year. Those guys really impressed at times. And so here's to hoping that they can improve and build off of what they did as rookies. But that is always a crapshoot sometimes. Well, always a crapshoot sometimes. That doesn't make any sense. It's a crapshoot to predict young corners to ascend because it's a learning curve. It's a really weird learning curve to me as I've seen corners develop over the years. And so Tarheeb Still showed some good things, and Cam Hart had some injury issues as well, which is important to note. So you're hoping that he stays healthy. But a lot of it's unknown. There's a lot of promise, but it's a lot of unknown to see what they do stepping into a bigger role in 2025. So we'll have to see. I just don't know how good the corners are going to be. They do have the upside to be really good if Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart take a really big step forward in year two. I'm not going to obviously put that against them. But I don't know. I think it might be a little bit more of a mediocre to bad set cornerback group, more likely than it is to be great. We'll have to see, though. I could always be wrong, but I think corner might be a weakness on this team this year. So interesting to keep an eye on and to see how Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart continue to develop. So now we get into their schedule. And first of all, shout out to the social media team or media team, graphics team, whatever it is for the Chargers that made the schedule. This is one of the easiest, most readable schedules I have done so far on this show. You have no idea. Some of these schedules are so blurry for me, I can barely read it, which is why I've barely mentioned prime time. When I talk about primetime games, for example, I don't really say the specific primetime game very often because I just can't see it. It's too blurry. I can't make it out. But apparently on your screen, it's not that bad. So I guess it's just me because I'm using a tablet and the image is compressed because I'm using a Google Doc. But this one is very much readable. So let's break it down. So week 1 against the Chiefs in Brazil. I think the Chiefs win this game week 1. Going to be a tough one. Going to be a fun game. But I think the Chiefs are going to be winning that. And then week 2, you go on the road to face the Raiders. I think you can win that one early on. I think it's going to take some time for the Raiders to get a little settled in compared to the Chargers, where I think they're going to be a little bit better to start off the year than them. And then week 3 in the Broncos. So you got 3 divisional games in the first 3 weeks. Man, that is tough. That is very challenging because if you lose all 3 of those games, which is possible, those are your divisional opponents. They know you best. So, I mean, the Chargers could start off 0-3, but I think they're more than likely going to start 2-1. I think they could beat the Raiders on the road and then beat the Broncos at home in their official home opener. So I think that bodes well for them, at least to me. And then week 4 at the Giants. I think the Giants aren't going to be that good this year. I just can't buy into it. The more I think about the Giants, the more I don't know. I just think I can't be excited about it. But that's a video for another day. I have them winning that game. Week 5 at home against the Commanders. This should be a really fun football game. I'm going to be really keeping track of this one. I'll have to keep my eye on it for sure. Jaden Daniels versus Justin Herbert with those two teams. Really should be going at it. Obviously, the Commanders have a little bit more flash, and the Chargers are a little bit more ground and pound. So it'll be fun to watch. We'll have to see. And then Week 6 on the road against Miami, another good game. I've mentioned this before. Every time these quarterbacks from the 2021 draft class meet up, or no, 2020 actually, excuse me, from the 2020 draft class, every time they face off, it's usually a pretty good game. Okay, so the Dolphins, that'll be a tough one, but I think the Dolphins lose that game. I think the Chargers win it for sure. So after the first 6 games, you're looking at a potential, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm losing I can't see. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me actually look at this properly. Yeah, so you're looking at a 4-2 start. Okay, I don't know why I just blanked there. I couldn't read that. I'm sorry. I mean, my vision isn't bad, but in that moment, my vision was pretty bad. I don't know what that was about. So let's continue. So I got a 4-2 start right now for the Chargers. And then at the Colts, that's a win to me at home. Give me that. That's 5-2. And then against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football, this is a tough one because the Vikings defense I still think is going to be really strong this year. Probably will be one of the tougher defenses on their schedule. And I don't know. That's a tough one. I think the Vikings could come away with that win. That's a toss-up for me. And then Week 9 on the road against the Titans. I would pick the Chargers to win this game. But recently the Chargers have not won in Tennessee. So I'll be interested to see if that narrative continues, but we will have to see. And then Week 10 against the Steelers, another tough one. I think the Steelers won last year when they faced off. I don't remember. It was early in the year. I think it was Week 2 when they faced off. Was it not? I can't remember, but this is going to be a close game regardless. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to have a lot to deal with this Chargers defense. I think he does have a pretty good day, though. So maybe the Steelers get the edge here. Probably. We'll just have to see. It's going to be a tough game regardless. And then you go on the road to Jacksonville. Jacksonville should be a little bit more of more fun to watch team than they were last year. Their offense by this point, by week 11, should be a lot more improved from what it was at the beginning of the year. But the Chargers, I still think are a better football team. I think they win this game. And then you go into the bye week in week 12, so a later bye, which is nice. And then you come off the bye to face the Raiders at home. I think that's a game you could win. The Raiders at this point are going to be a better football team, I think, so it's going to be competitive, but it is a winnable game. And then Monday Night Football against the Eagles. I think the Eagles win this one, but the Chargers will make this a good game. This will be a good game to watch. Trust me. I'm excited for this one. And then on the road at the Chiefs, that's a loss. I'm sorry. I don't until the Chiefs take a significant fall off and these divisional opponents start beating Kansas City more consistently. It's hard for me to actually pick them to win because Patrick Mahomes literally has barely lost any games against his division since he's gotten into the league. So that's going to be tough. Then on the road against the Cowboys, I think you can win that one. Don't think the Cowboys are very good this year. And then week 17 at the Texans. This will be a fun one. The Texans last year in the wild card round smoked the Chargers. And Justin Herbert threw 4 interceptions when he threw only 3 all year, if you guys remember that correctly. So that's going to be a good rematch. I'll be excited to watch it. We'll have to see who comes out on top. And they're in Chargers territory, so that would help them out. And then week 18 on the road to face the Broncos. That one's going to be interesting because I think the Broncos and the Chargers are going to be in the playoffs this year again. So very much so, I think this game is going to end up becoming a seed placement game. Whoever wins is going to get the higher seed, obviously. So it's going to make this game one of the better ones in week 18 that are going to be really interesting to watch because a lot of teams are going to be out of the playoffs just trying to play spoiler, right? Or just trying to get one win to finish the year strong. But this is one that's probably going to matter more than almost any of them. So it'll be fun to see what happens in what these two teams. So that concludes the Chargers schedule. I think it's going to be tough, but it is doable. These first 11 weeks are challenging. And these final 6, this is I didn't mention it before, but I'll mention it now. It is tough, though. If you're looking at it, Raiders, obviously tough. Chiefs, Broncos, 3 divisional games. It's going to be tougher later in the year compared to what it is in the beginning of the year, which is still tough. And then you have the Texans, which is a playoff team. Eagles, Super Bowl champions last year. So, these last 6 games could make or break the Chargers in how they go 12-5 or 10-7. This will define, the last 6 games will define what their season really is. Because the first 11 weeks, I think they can manage it. I think they can get through it fine. But these last 6 games is really where we're going to see what this Chargers team is made out of. And so I'm excited to see that. The pressure is going to be on. The playoffs are going to be right around the corner. So if the Chargers are going to play good football and be better this year, then this is the time to show it. So their most important matchups obviously are their hardest games. To me, they're in that conversation now. They deserve to be in that debate. So the Chargers are going to should be can be competitive in all of these games. We'll have to see, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the Chargers can do. And like I said earlier, I have them making the playoffs. I do have them finishing 3rd in the division behind the Broncos and the Chiefs. And my official record prediction for the Chargers is boom, 10-7. And now let me explain 10-7 for a second, because it goes back to what I said before with this team that could be elite. This team could win 12 games, and that would not surprise me whatsoever. But when I was doing the schedule prediction and everything was all said and done, I was like, okay, Chargers 10-7. Let me just comb through it and let me just look and just see, like, do I really believe in that? And after like going through it a few times, I was like, yeah, man, I could buy in the Chargers going 10-7. That would not be bad at all. Obviously, I still have them making the playoffs, which I think is more important. So the 10-7 is not a reflection of the team not being as good and taking a step backwards, more than there's going to be a lot of good AFC teams this year. And obviously, there's only a limited number of wins to go around. So the Chargers could go 10-7. They could go 12-5. They could go either or. I'm not set in stone about 10-7 compared to some other teams where I'm kind of more set in stone about what their record's going to be. But most of the time, when I pick records, I'm usually within 1 to 2 games off, and 10-7 and 12-5 are 2 wins apart. So that would check out for me at least. But look at some storylines for the Chargers. Number 1 is the run game, because obviously they brought in 2 new starters in Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris. So you want to see that continue to develop and do well. Najee Harris is an upgrade over J.K. Dobbins. Maybe, I guess, if you want to say more recently, sure. But Omarion Hampton over Gus Edwards, obviously that's a great upgrade. A lot more upside here because of Hampton. So we'll have to see how well those 2 backs grow and develop as the year goes along. And then number 2 on the offensive side is receiver development. This team needs better wide receiver play. Here's the thing. I wanted to make it a weakness. I really did. But I thought about it and I was like, you know what? They have so much youth. They have so much talent at the position. It's hard to be for say when they have Justin Herbert, when their offensive line should at least be solid. Ladd McConkey is going to do good things. Quentin Johnston will continue to be okay if he doesn't develop. And Trey Harris, considering that he's in a role that really doesn't have, that no one else really has on the depth chart for the Chargers. I could be wrong about that, though. Not 100% on that. But he is a physical X receiver, and they needed that. So he's going to have some targets. He's going to be on the field a lot. He's going to develop. So I really can buy into this upside being good more than maybe it's going to be a weakness and hold this team back. But that being said, it is still a lot of unproven talent. Trey Harris obviously is a rookie. Quentin Johnston, can he take a next step forward? I don't know. I'm inclining to say no. But for what he is, I think that if you continue to use him how he's been used, he can continue to be okay and still be a good role player for you. And Ladd McConkey, I think he's still going to be really good. So I think it's going to be fine. Number 3, though, does this defense continue to be strong? I do not think so personally with what they lost on the defensive line and looking at their corner situation. I'm not going to be thinking, I don't think they're going to be as good, but I still think they're going to be good. I think they're still going to be solid. They're still going to be competitive. They're not going to have a lot of big plays let up over their head. It's maybe they with the corners, but I don't think this defense is going to be bad. Not at all. I still think it's a good defense. So they should still keep them in games. I don't know if it's going to be a liability. I doubt that. So the defense, will it continue to be strong? Yes, just not as good as it was last year. And then number 4, I just want to see growth in year 2 under John Harbaugh. Like I said last year, they set a really good foundation for what this team could be later down the line. And so realistically going into year 2, with a lot of the continuity that they still have, I want to see growth. I want to see Justin Herbert continue to progress. I want to see these running backs and receivers progress. There's a lot of young talent in there. They should grow. They should develop. This offensive line should continue to get better, right? And this defense, the linebacker, Dan Henley, should be better. These edge rushers should continue to play well. And their defensive tackle, Kyle Kennard, that they drafted, they should develop. I want to see growth from this team. I think they can do that. I want to see it. And realistically, they should have a little bit of growth, given that they still have a lot of continuity, like I said. So that's going to be my biggest reason for watching the Chargers, is just to see how they continue to grow and progress in year 2 under Jim Harbaugh, and I'm confident in that. I think they can grow and be a little bit better than they were last year, and so that's going to be my overall theming or reason as to why I'm watching the Chargers in 2025. So with that being said, that concludes our discussion for the LA Chargers. Again, I think they're going to be good this year. They have the ceiling to be elite and be 12-5. I'm just not sure how they're going to hit that, just because the AFC is loaded this year and there's only limited number of wins to go around, but they're still going to be a good football team. So with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and if you've made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe button, as it helps the channel out tremendously. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers before the 2025 season ends. The regular season ends, I should add specifically. So we're trying to get there. You guys are doing a fantastic job, so keep hitting those buttons. Hit the like button. Really get more and more people into this community that we're trying to build. And then secondly, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think the Chargers are going to be better this year? Do you think they may take a step back given what they lost on defense? Tell me what you guys think. Please do. And then lastly, make sure you guys follow me on social media, where you guys want to follow me on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and then Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, right? Yeah, all those are the 4 main ones. And continue spreading the love, continue spreading the growth of this community, and make sure to go check out everything else in the season preview series. Check out all the other teams I've talked about. I've talked about the AFC South, the AFC North, and the AFC East at this point. We're concluding with the AFC West, and now we got to talk about the NFC, which is going to be really, really fun in my opinion. So with that being said, that is going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and as always, I'm about to sneeze. I will see you all next time. Dang it, it went away.